7 was seconded by Councilman Snee, and the motion carried 3-0. With no further business before council, the meeting was adjourned at 5:44 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Okay. Materials and equipment, Councilmember Jones.
No report, Madam President.
Personnel and Labor Relations, Councilmember Hayes.
No report, Madam President.
Recreation and Public Property, Councilmember Snee.
No report at this time, Madam President.
There's no report for street, sidewalks, and sewers. Economic Development and Downtown Planning, Councilmember Horniman.
No report, Madam President.
Okay, does anyone see the need for Committee of the Whole? Okay. We're now under reports of the officers. His Honor, Mayor Lee Wilkinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to remind everyone that tomorrow is Election Day for this May 6th primary election time, and there's two important things on the ballot. Tiffin Road and Bridge Levy continuation and Ohio Issue 2. Ohio Issue 2 is important to us because it will excuse me, I'm going to start that over again. Fund, thank you, the public infrastructure capital improvements, and it's paid for by bonds that they sell, so it's not a tax increase. And we get some of that money here in Tiffin to help us out with our roads, bridges, and sewer projects. So that would be important. I do have a couple of proclamations here. May is Motorcycle Awareness Month, so I have a proclamation to read for Motorcycle Awareness Month. Whereas motorcycles are a popular means of transportation and recreation for thousands of Ohioans, offering fuel efficiency and an enjoyable riding experience, and whereas the safety of all roadway users is of utmost importance and motorcyclists face an increased risk of injury and death due to their visibility and exposure, whereas all motorists are reminded to actively watch for motorcycles, use extra caution at intersections, and give motorcyclists adequate space on the road. And whereas motorcyclists are also encouraged to ride responsibly, wear appropriate safety gear, complete certified training courses, and follow all traffic laws. And whereas Motorcycle Awareness Month is an opportunity to raise public awareness about sharing the road, promoting safe riding practices, and reducing motorcycle-related crashes, injuries, and fatalities. And whereas the City of Tiffin is proud to support efforts that improve motorcycle safety and foster mutual respect among all road users. Now I, Lee Wilkinson, Mayor of the City of Tiffin, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Motorcycle Awareness Month in the City of Tiffin, and urge all motorcyclists to be alert, drive responsibly, and look twice to save a life. And I do have, is anyone here from the Abate Motorcycle Group? They are not, but in relation to that, I do have a flyer for the Christmas in July Toy Run, which takes place July 19th, 2025. 2025 starts at noon, and it is for Toys for Tots. And it starts at the Eagles 402 right here in Tiffin. So if you're interested in that, I have some flyers up here. So let me know if you need more information. I also have a proclamation for National Historic Preservation Month because May is also National Historic Preservation Month. So I would like to present this proclamation to those who may be here from the Tiffin Historic Trust. Whereas historic preservation is an essential part of the City of Tiffin's commitment to maintaining its unique identity, culture, and architectural heritage. Whereas the City of Tiffin is proud of its many historic buildings, neighborhoods, and landmarks that tell the story of our past and serve as a foundation for our future. And whereas preservation efforts contribute not only to the aesthetic and cultural value of our city, but also to supporting local businesses and economic growth by promoting tourism. And whereas National Historic Preservation Month, celebrated annually in May, provides an opportunity to spotlight the importance of preserving historic places and to recognize the many individuals, organizations, and businesses dedicated to this cause. And whereas the Architectural Board of Review, the Tiffin Historic Trust, and organizations such as Heritage Ohio play a vital role in protecting and enhancing Tiffin's historic character. And public awareness and community engagement in historic preservation efforts are key to ensuring that future generations can experience and appreciate the architectural and cultural treasures of Tiffin. Now, therefore, I, Lee Wilkinson, Mayor of the City of Tiffin, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as National Historic Preservation Month in the City of Tiffin and encourage all residents, businesses, and visitors to recognize the importance of preserving our city's historical and cultural resources and to participate in activities that promote and celebrate our shared heritage. May 2025. Thank you. And we do have some people here from the Tiffin Historic Trust. I would like to present this proclamation to them at this time. And I do have one more proclamation because next week is National Police Week coming up from May 11th to the 17th. So in recognizing National Police Week that's coming up, I would like to present this proclamation. Whereas the week of May 11th to 17th, 2025 is recognized as National Police Week, a time to reflect upon and honor the incredible sacrifices and service of our nation's law enforcement officers. And whereas May 15th marks the solemn occasion to honor and remember the men and women of local, state, and federal law enforcement who have sacrificed their lives or endured injuries in the line of duty. And whereas over 800,000 law enforcement officers serve across the United States, committing themselves to the protection and safety of our communities with unwavering dedication and bravery. And whereas these officers are not only public servants, but cherished family members, spouses, parents, sons, and daughters whose lives and contributions extend far beyond their professional duties. And whereas the legacy of these brave individuals is one of profound commitment, selflessness, and heroism that will forever be etched in the hearts of their loved ones in the communities they serve. And whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize and pay tribute to these courageous men and women, acknowledging their service and the profound loss felt by their families and colleagues, now I therefore, Lee Wilkinson, Mayor of the City of Tiffin, do proclaim May 15th, 2025 as Peace Officer Memorial Day, as we join together in solemn remembrance and gratitude, honoring the sacrifice of those who have fallen and expressing our deep appreciation for all law enforcement officers who continue to serve with valor and integrity. Let us affirm our commitments to supporting the families of the fallen and to ensuring the safety and well-being of all who protect and serve the nation. Thank you. I don't have anyone from the police department here, but I will present this to Chief Pauly tomorrow morning. And lastly, I would like to introduce Matt Watson for an update from the engineering department.
Thank you, Mayor. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to present the annual update of the City Engineer's Office, not only to each of you, but also the public. First, I'm going to talk about staffing. So in addition to myself, our Assistant City Engineer is Jason Mortar. Our Engineer Tech 1 is Ryan Steinmetz, and our Zoning Inspector is Dan Brickner. I want to acknowledge that Jason obtained his professional surveyor license as well as his CESWI, which is a certified erosion, sediment, and stormwater inspector license last year since we had met. And I really want to commend the staff. They do a great job, and what is most impressive is the amount of work we get done in such a small office. And I think that'll be very evident tonight as I go through this presentation. and it speaks to the systems we have in place and the buy-in we get from the staff. We're efficient, and everyone shows up and works hard on a daily basis, and I'm very appreciative of that. In the city engineer's office, we wear a lot of hats. I'm not, aside from just managing projects, I'm not going to go through each item individually, as I'll probably be covering a lot of them at one point or another through the presentation this evening. But I do want to hit on a couple of them. First being the Ohio EPA mandated stormwater management program. So the engineer's office is responsible for minimum control measures number 4 and 5. So minimum control measure number 4 relates to construction sites. And any construction site that disturbs more than 1 acre of land is required to obtain a construction site runoff control permit from our office. Also, those sites are then required to be inspected from the time that the site is disturbed till the time that the site is stabilized at the completion of the project weekly or after a rain event of a ½ inch in a 24-hour period. Last year, those sites in our city generated 318 inspection reports, either completed by a representative of the city engineer's office or a third-party consultant, which was reviewed by the city engineer's office. Minimum control measure number 5 pertains to existing stormwater facilities that could be either detention basins, retention basins, underground storage facilities, or water quality control structures. Currently, we have 44 of those existing facilities in our city. 11 are public, 33 are private, and all of those facilities require annual inspections. So the city engineer's office is completing all the inspections on the 11 public facilities as well as many of the 33 private facilities. So I want to commend Jason as well for taking the lead for managing this program for our office. It's very important. The Ohio EPA actually comes to town and audits the overall stormwater management program for the city every 7 years. They actually audited our city per our compliance this past winter. So very important program that we manage, and Jason does a great job at that. Next, I want to cover floodplain management. So the city engineer is the designated floodplain administrator for the city of Tiffin. And the responsibilities of that position is to ensure that all development proposed within our FEMA designated floodplains comply with our floodplain regulations. And administering this program allows our residents the opportunity to obtain flood insurance. Next, I want to give updates in regards to permits for last year. And I also want to go back to the staff on this one and say that they do a great job managing this part of the office so that I can focus my attention on our larger projects and our day-to-day operations. Dan Brickner, he's our zoning inspector. He does a great job. In addition to just being the zoning inspector, he is the city's representative on the Architectural Board of Review, which he serves as that board's secretary. He's also the secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals and oversees the city's exterior maintenance code. Last year, we issued 164 zoning permits, and there were 14 meetings total between the Zoning Board of Appeals and Architectural Board of Review, overseeing 41 applications. So being the secretary of each of those boards, Dan was responsible for preparing those 14 meeting dockets and minutes for those committees. Additionally, we do break down our permits, as you'll see in the top right-hand corner of this slide, by category. Last year, as part of our permitting process, we do require estimated costs for each private project that obtains a zoning permit. We were tracking over $27.6 million in private investment in our community through the zoning process. Next, I want to talk about Jason and Ryan's role in regards to permitting. They manage the sewer tap permits and the street cut permits for the city engineer's office. Sewer tap permits can be for a new sewer tap run from the house to the sewer main or for a repair on an existing sewer lateral. Last year, we issued 48 sewer tap permits, and each of those permits were followed by an on-site inspection to ensure compliance with the city's regulation. Additionally, with the sewer tap process, they ensure that all the contractors that are performing work on sewer laterals in our city are licensed to do so with the city engineer's office, which ensures that that contractor has the appropriate bonding and insurance. In regards to street cut permits, that's for any work being performed inside the city's right-of-way. Last year, 500 street cut permits were issued, which was a significant increase from years past, and that primarily relates to the Omni Fiber project that was going on in our city. So street cut permits could be for private utility projects or private projects such as driveways or sidewalks. And each one of those permits is also followed up with an inspection to ensure compliance with the city's rules and regulations. Next, I want to give an update in regards to the City of Tiffin's Ohio EPA mandated long-term control plan. So I know that I have continuously updated council through street, sidewalk, and sewer committees in regards to the status of this plan. However, I thought it would be beneficial tonight for the public to also provide this update. As you'll see on the screen, there's several projects associated with this long-term control plan, and we are currently actively involved in the design of the high rate treatment project, the main interceptor project, the Benner interceptor project, as well as the CSO 9 through 13 and 15 inflow reduction project. Likewise, we are also in the planning phase on the CSO 18, 19, 23, 33, and 37 inflow reduction project. On the bottom of the screen, the picture on the left shows the area where the main and Benner interceptor projects will be taking place. The concept plan in the middle shows a preliminary concept of the high rate treatment facility project being proposed on Water Street, just north of the railroad viaduct. And the concept plan on the right side of the screen at the bottom shows the proposed storm sewers that need to be installed as part of the CSO 9 through 13 and 15 inflow reduction project. You will see that the 4 projects currently in design are required to begin construction as early as 2026 and be completed no later than July of 2029. The city engineer's office is responsible for the implementation of the city's Ohio EPA mandated long-term control plan, which includes not only managing projects, but also the flow monitoring contract and funding. In regards to funding, we pursue grant and loans for the projects and are also heavily involved in the city's sewer rate study. This plan is estimated to cost $160 million. Thus, it is very significant and impactful to our community. It is also very front-end loaded. So the 4 projects are basically developing a 15-year plan where we are laying out all the required Ohio EPA mandated long-term control plan projects with their estimated cost. Where there are gap years where there's no long-term control plan projects going on, we are going to fill in those years with maintenance projects that will be prioritized by MS consultants. And the way they're going to do their priority is, as we've been going through the planning phases on this CSO 9 through 13 and 15 project, as well as the 18, 19, 23, 33, and 37 project, we have been doing condition assessments on the entire system, knowing that the plan is not addressing the entire system as a whole. So in the basis of design reports through those planning phases, the consultants are providing recommendations in regards to maintenance on our existing sewers, which could be full replacement of lines between structures, complete replacement of structures like manholes, point repairs in designated areas on those lines, or lining the line between manholes. So we're going to develop a priority of maintenance items and then develop a cost that we can incur on those maintenance projects without having to increase our sewer rates through this hands-on cloud-based system through Waterworth. So I think it's going to be very advantageous for us, and I look forward to being able to develop that 15-year plan. Last, in regards to the long-term control plan, I will say that the implementation of this plan has been very challenging and probably the most challenging task I've undertaken in this role. Primarily because it's front-end loaded. We're trying to do $100 million worth of work at one time. We're a small community with limited staffing. We do have consultants helping us on the design of all of these projects. However, each project flows into another. They're all interrelated in one way or another. Thus, managing those consultants and making sure they're coordinating appropriately and communicating in regards to how their project will impact the other consultant's project takes a lot of time and oversight in managing those consultants. But I do want to thank Brandon Berner and the Public Works Department, as well as Kevin Hughes and the wastewater treatment plant staff for all the support that they've provided in implementing this long-term control plan. So Kevin and his team have been great as it relates to the high rate treatment project. They really dive in, very heavily involved, and take a lot of work off my plate by being so hands-on with that project, and I greatly appreciate that. Likewise, Brandon and his team bring their hands-on approach in the field to helping provide a lot of information to the consultants on these projects. And Brandon sits in all the monthly meetings with me to ensure that at the end of the project, we are going to be in compliance with the Ohio EPA. We have 6 monthly meetings just associated with all these long-term control plan projects, so we're designating a lot of time there. So I can't thank Brandon and his team as well as Kevin and his team enough for the support they provided to date. Next, I want to give another update in regards to the West Market Street safety study. So this is another item that I previously updated council at a committee meeting as well, but also thought it was fitting to include this update in the presentation this evening for the public's benefit. The objective of the West Market Street safety study was to evaluate and identify strategies to enhance traffic flow, improve safety, and optimize access on the West Market Street commercial corridor between US 224 and Hopewell Avenue. The reason for moving forward with this study was over the 3-year period from 2021 to 2023, there were 152 accidents in this corridor, with one being fatal, 19% of those accidents being injury, and 33% of the accidents were rear-end collisions. We had identified that there is more grant funding available than ever on the safety side of things through ODOT. They currently have grants that'll fund projects 90% up to $5 million. Thus, with this commercial area continuing to grow, the crash history, we felt it was a need of the cities to move forward with a study with American Structure Point to come up with ideas for improving this area of our city. Some of the key recommendations that came out of that study was first, access management. There are way more commercial access drives to each private property than what is needed. So what this plan is proposing is a reduction to those access drives. Also, it proposed to put more control measures within the continuous center left-hand turn lane that we have all the way through that entire corridor. Another neat feature of the study is to create rear public access like you see in many neighboring cities. So as you will see on this slide, there are concepts that show new city streets being proposed behind the frontage lots in front of the Tiffin Mall and Kroger, as well as behind the frontage lots in front of Big Lots. So what this would do is essentially create potentially a new city street that could almost connect from 224 all the way to the Tiffin Mall, Kroger, and the frontage lots in front of each of those businesses. If Progress Parkway were to be extended all the way between 224 and West Market Street, somebody could go to one of those businesses or the mall or Kroger without having to go on West Market Street from 224. Another important feature of implementing the rear access roads is that it would allow us to create the access to only come from the rear of those frontage lots, which would make the access to and from safer, as well as making the access in and out of the businesses on the south side of West Market Street across from those businesses safer as well, because they won't have to contend with the access drives for those northern businesses when trying to navigate in and out from West Market Street. In regards to the Big Lots area, we are also proposing improvements at the Wentz Street and Market Street intersection. In the concept plan on the bottom right-hand side, you will see that this area is proposing a new merge lane from the Perry-Wentz Street corridor that would be able to be utilized to access that new city street between Ashwood Drive and Teakwood Drive. It could also be used to access Ashwood Drive. Likewise, we would be proposing channelization bollards on that innermost lane where most people are doing the right on red currently and staggering traffic, and there are a lot of rear end collisions because of that starting and stopping at that intersection. So what we would be proposing is a protected through green lane like we previously installed near the Market and Perry intersection near the Pit Stop gas station. These improvements total about $8.8 million. And our 2025 goal was to develop a strategic plan for funding and implementation. And that's kind of the last update that I left to council. So I wanted to give council further update. Since our last meeting, we have met with ODOT and we had discussions and presented the plan to them. And after our discussions with ODOT, it was decided that the priority area for the first phase of an application should be for the area kind of between Teakwood Drive and that Went Street intersection. And the reason for that is Teakwood Drive is the intersection where that one fatal accident had occurred. So we have more of a likelihood for success with that application because of that significant of a crash. And that signal is the only signal in that corridor that does not offer protected left-hand turning movements. Thus, you don't have protected lefts either onto Teakwood or into McDonald's. So what we're going to do is we're working with American Structure Point now. The grant applications look at a cost-benefit analysis of all the improvements that are being proposed. So we're going to look at the access management. We're going to look at the rear access roads. We're going to look at the intersection improvements and put the cost with the benefit and try to figure out the best application that we can put in to the for the city to that area. And it's our plan to submit an application either in August of this year or March of next year for potentially a 2030 or 2031 construction project. Next, I want to talk about grant and loans. We're always very active pursuing grant and loan opportunities, and our objective is to leverage our local funds with available federal, state, and local grant and loan opportunities. 2024 was no different. Last year, we submitted 6 grant applications as well as 7 loan requests. We were successful with all but 2 of those submissions. In total, we brought in over $2 million in grant funding, as well as over $10 million in below market rate interest loans. To date, we have received, since 2018, the city engineer's office has brought in nearly $14.4 million in local, state, and federal grant funds for community infrastructure projects. So I know at the last meeting, I was hammering home that $7.7 million in grant funding. That was just for road and bridge infrastructure improvements. So the $14.4 million includes everything: sewers, streetscapes, roads, bridges. So very happy with the success we've had in regards to bringing in that outside funding. Also, as you'll see on the chart on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, in our planning process, we're always tracking the different available funding sources with potential projects in which they might be suited. And the timeline for submission usually is dependent upon when the resources are available for staffing and our local share as it pertains to funding. But I will say most of these potential projects already have a concept plan in place, a cost estimate, and are ready to go to ensure we are ready and able to pivot quickly if any other funding opportunities arise. Next, I want to cover projects that were completed last year. So first, we had our street paving project, which paved a portion of 24 streets. This project was complete by M&B Asphalt, and the total project cost was just over $1.28 million. We also completed the CSO 24 and 30 inflow reduction project, which was an Ohio EPA mandated long-term control plan project. The project was completed by Underground Utilities out of Monroeville, Ohio. The scope of the project included sanitary sewer installation, storm sewer installation, and sewer lining in the Little Hedges Park and Frost Connell Stadium areas of our city. Total project cost was just over $3.5 million, and we received $4 million in principal forgiveness from the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, otherwise known as WPCLF. And principal forgiveness is essentially a grant. So we walked away from that project without having any local funds associated towards that construction contract. We also completed the HSTS elimination project. This was also completed by Underground Utilities and eliminated 18 active septic systems in our community. The total cost ended up being just under $1.8 million, and we received $390,000 grant from the Ohio Water and Wastewater Grant Program. And this program provided significant benefit to the implementation of our Ohio EPA mandated stormwater management program because it reduced the likelihood of illicit discharges into our waterway as a result of active sewer septic systems in our community. And the last public project that we completed last year was on Willow Court, and it resolved a longstanding drainage issue and was completed by a local contractor from New Riggle A&D Excavating. In addition to those public projects, we did have quite a bit of time involved in private projects. So we were actively involved in the Heidelberg Fieldhouse project. Where their building is being located now, there was actually an active interceptor sewer located there previously. So we had to coordinate with their designers in the design to relocate that sewer. And as it was relocated, we had oversight out in the field from our office ensuring that the construction was done correctly and it was tested to pass all the Ohio EPA requirements at the time that it was relocated. We were also heavily involved in all the aqua projects that were completed in our city last year. So they had four main replacement projects on Melmore Street, Miami Street, McCollum Street, and Madison Street, as well as started their first lead service project, which had 500 private properties included in it. As far as the aqua projects go, we're involved in the pre-construction meetings, the post-construction walkthroughs, and their contractors are usually calling us on a weekly basis throughout the construction of their project to coordinate one thing or another. A lot of times it's road closures and how they're going to maintain traffic through their construction limits, or how they're going to restore the project temporarily or permanently back to a condition that we are satisfied with. We also had the OmniFiber project going on in our city last year, which was a full fiber installation throughout our entire city corporation limits, and Columbia Gas had a very significant project on the north end of town, north of 4th Avenue. Next, given an update on this upcoming year's projects. So first we have our street paving project. We are under contract with M&B Asphalt again in the amount of $1,037,878.38 to pave a portion of 26 streets in our community. Work started on this in April, and they are flying through our roads, to say the least. Right now, work has started or been completed on all but 6 of the 26 roads. So we got this project out to bid last year in November, I believe it was, and we're under contract right after the first of the year, which allowed us to be set up to get our roads paved before summer. So we're going to continue with that schedule moving forward, and hopefully the contractor has as much time to designate towards our project early on in the future as we've had this year. We also recently bid and went under contract for our US 224 urban paving project, where M&B was the low bidder on that project as well, with a contract amount of $527,205.90. This project is being funded 80% up to $355,000 through ODOT's urban paving program, and will pave the section of US 224 from the State Route 18 intersection to a point between Mercy Hospital and the Willows. That project's projected to start sometime this fall and be complete before winter. We will be doing the first annual Reclamite Asphalt Rejuvenator project this year. We are under a contract for just over $57,000 with Pavement Technology Incorporated to install the Reclamite Asphalt Rejuvenator on a portion of 9 city streets that were paved in 2023. We'll be moving forward with the CSO 9 through 13 and 15 point repair project. This project has an estimated cost of about $3.3 Street, North Washington Street, as well as Ohio Avenue, and potentially a main replacement project on Sandusky Street between Hall Street and the Corp limits, where we are planning to do our road reconstruction project next year. So they are looking to get in there and get their water main replaced prior to us making that investment on that roadway. Likewise, we will be providing support to the Heidelberg Fieldhouse project as that concludes construction this year. I talked about the sewer relocation that we did last year. This year, we'll be heavily involved with the public road that they will be putting on the west side of that facility, connecting Walker Street and Main Street. So we'll be involved out in the field overseeing that construction, as we'll be taking on the long-term maintenance of that road. So we want to ensure that it gets constructed per our requirements. Next, I want to talk about our culverts. So we have 25 identified culverts under our roadways. Jason and Ryan inspected each of these culverts last year, and they were rated on a system of 1 to 9, with 1 being bad, 9 being good. As you'll see, we flagged 2 of those culverts in yellow as priorities. First being the culvert on South River Road. The plan for that culvert is to replace it with the Benner Interceptor project. And the reason that we're doing that is because the Benner Interceptor project actually has to install a new sanitary sewer underneath that culvert. So that culvert will have to be replaced with that project. We also flagged the South Sandusky Street culvert near Cottage Avenue. We are planning to replace that culvert next year at the same time that we are constructing the road improvements on North Sandusky Street between Hall Street and the city's corporation limits. And the reason that we're doing those two projects at the same time is because they both would require an out-of-town detour. And we want to reduce the impact that the projects have, not only on our residents, but the businesses on 53. So we're trying to package as many projects in that 53 corridor at one time to reduce that impact on everybody. Next, given an update in regards to our bridges. So our bridges are inspected annually by a third-party consultant through the ODOT Municipal Bridge Inspection Program at no cost to the city. The inspection reports are then submitted to me for my review, and upon my review, I might provide maintenance recommendations to our Public Works Department. Like the culverts, the bridges are rated on a scale of 1 to 9, and it requires a 4 or less to be eligible for federal funding. As you'll see, all of our bridges are currently rated 5 and up, so our bridges are in pretty good shape right now. And last year, we didn't see too many significant changes, but we did have one bridge decline in rating from a 6 to a 5, and that's the Main Street Bridge over Rock Creek near Heidelberg University. Next, I wanted to show council the 5-year plan. Obviously, we've been very busy in years past, and this 5-year plan shows that there's no let up in the immediate future. In addition to the 5-year plan, I also maintain a 15-year plan, and that's kind of the purpose behind that 15-year sewer plan, is to continue to fill in the gaps on that 15-year plan. And the purpose of the plans are that it seems that the demand for our office and the projects far exceeds the capacity of the office. Also probably exceeds the capacity of the city in regards to our finances and funding. So we always plan in order to create balance in regard to our workload. Additionally, in addition to the 5 and the 15-year plans, I also maintain 7+ years worth of plans in regards to street paving. So with the road and bridge levy in place, I can project our revenues that far out, as well as our projects, and have a detailed list of each road that we're planning to pave over the next 7 years. All plans, whether it's the 5-year plan, the 15-year plan, or the 7+ year street paving plan, all continuously change due to coordination that is needed with private development and private utility projects. Another thing that I want to show council that I'm very proud that we created last year was these project-based websites. So if you go to tiffinohio.gov and you go to the engineer's office webpage and go to the right-hand side of the screen, there's an option for current city projects. There you will see a list of all the active projects that we currently have going on in our city. So for instance, if I click on the 2025 street paving project, you will see that there is a lot of project information that is available not only to the administration and council, but as well as the public. On these pages, we have information in regards to who the contractor is, what the contract amount is, what the contract completion date is, the scope of work. We have a link to frequently asked questions. We're just trying to promote transparency and gain efficiency through our office through providing this benefit to the public. One thing that we're hoping to accomplish with this in the future is projects that we have to put door hangers out to notify the public. We can put a link through a QR code directly to that project's webpage, and then that resident can just utilize the QR code, go there, find out all the information that they may need in regards to the project, which I think will be huge in regards to transparency and efficiency with our small office, and hopefully reduce the amount of phone calls, and the people can just obtain the information directly from the webpage. Last slide here. So since I took over the office in 2019, we've been very goal oriented. And each year in this presentation, I like to go back to the most recent goals that we've laid out and kind of go through and provide an update and where we are in achieving those goals. So our last goal were laid out in 2023. And that first goal was to develop staff to promote sustainability while also providing a high level of service. Like I said, I took over the engineer's office in 2019, and the only current staff member that was on the team at that time was Dan Brickner, our zoning inspector, who started in 2017. We also didn't have any long tenured employees next to us. So Jason came on board in 2020. Ryan came on board in 2022. We built a great team, but we built it from the ground up. So each year we continue to get better with the experience that everybody is gaining. I'll say myself personally, last year, I took continuing education courses to sustain all the licenses that I have. And I did 54 and a half hours of continuing education alone last year, whether it's floodplain related, whether it's stormwater related, whether it's ODOT LPA grants and how to administer them. It's very important that I continue to diversify myself as a leader to the office and to provide the best customer service that I can through that continuing education to our residents and to the city. The second item or goal from 2023 was to continue to effectively manage the city's road and bridge levy. So I touched on this pretty heavily at the last council meeting when I gave the update in regards to the road and bridge levy, but that road and bridge levy was built on two foundations, one being transparency and two being developing a fiscally responsible and effective plan. In regards to transparency, we put out annual updates to the public through social media. We have an annual update that goes out to social media. We put it out to the the local media, as well as I come annually and give an update to city council. That update is down to the penny on what the revenue was coming in, down to the penny of the expenses going out, all the way down to each project, and as well as lays out the plan for that upcoming year. I don't think you see that transparency in local government all the way through at many places. So very proud of the transparency that we developed, and I think a lot of the success behind this program has been based on the transparency. In regards to the fiscally responsible and effective plan, we're getting nearly $2 of road and bridge improvements for every $1 of additional local investment. So again, I don't think there's many communities out there on the local level that can say the same. So as long as we stick to our core of what we developed to date, I think we'll continue to be successful with the plan that we're implementing for our roads and bridges. And the third was related to long-term planning. So we're developing those 15-year plans, and we're developing plans for maintenance. We have a great plan in place for our roads, bridges, and culverts with the road and bridge levy. I talked tonight about developing that 15-year plan for our sewers so that we're right up to the same level with our sewer planning as we are our roads and our bridges. The West Market Street corridor, I believe that was originally laid out in the 1980s, and that corridor has continuously developed and grown. We identified that there's safety issues out there, and there's opportunity to continue to develop that corridor with additional frontage lots from the rear access roads that we're looking to put in. And we hope that that area continues to develop to continue to build some of our tax base. So we really need to continue to focus on the improvements that we can make out there to make that an inviting corridor, not only for developers, but for our citizens to go out and patronize those businesses. So I think that West Market Street corridor study and the safety study is setting the basis for making those improvements moving forward. Road diets. So I don't know if I've talked about this with council before or not, but a road diet essentially decreases the width of a roadway. And the benefits of road diets are to reduce runoff, improve safety, and reduce long-term maintenance costs. So we're looking at road diets in conjunction with our long-term control plan projects that we are currently in the phase of planning. As we're developing plans for the sewer projects in the area of South Monroe Street and Jefferson Street, where we have 2-lane, one-way streets that if you look out the window right now, we have Monroe Street, which has very wide pavement, and there's probably not a single vehicle driving down the road right now. What are the opportunities out there to make improvements long-term for our city? And the concepts that you see on the screen kind of depict that. So we're looking at the Monroe Street area. What can we do north of Charlotte Street, north of Columbian? There's probably more capacity issues, you know, once you get south of Charlotte and you get into that Columbian block. But north of Columbian, there's a lot of pavement out there with little capacity at most times through the day. So if you look at that corridor, if you shrunk in the curb limits, at least between Madison Street and Charlotte Street, and change the configuration of the roadway north of Madison Street, what would that do? That would reduce the pipe size that's needed for that storm sewer that's being installed, that would take the drainage and the stormwater in that area to the Sandusky River. It would improve safety, how bringing in those curbs would hopefully reduce traffic speed in those areas of the corridor by making it one lane, one way, and also improve safety at the intersections. So instead of having to navigate across 2 lanes of traffic coming at you that might be staggered in each lane, you now only have to navigate 1 lane of traffic as you're crossing through that intersection, you're turning onto it. In regards to long-term maintenance costs, you wouldn't have to pay for as much pavement long-term as you continuously pave the road. Same thing for that sewer pipe. If you're reducing the size of the pipe, and it would be less cost up front, less cost long-term. Likewise, we would have larger tree boulevards that could create more of an aesthetic scenery in the residential area and provide more room for the utilities to locate outside of the pavement, which would reduce the amount of utility dig-ups and the investment that we're making in our roadways. In regards to Jefferson Street, we are looking at that area south of Calvert, so from Melmore Street north. Another improvement outside of what I kind of listed for the South Monroe Street area would be at the intersection of Main and Jefferson. So if Jefferson was reduced down to 1 lane, 1 way, you could eliminate that traffic signal that is currently at that location, because you would have 1 lane of traffic coming at you. It could be more stop controlled through a stop sign, and that would be less long-term maintenance costs that the city would have with the substantial cost that it is to maintain our traffic signals. And we have recently removed similar traffic signals on that Jefferson Street corridor by removing the traffic signal at Jefferson and Co., and it's proved successful. In addition to road diets, another thing that we're continuously doing in regards to long-term planning is laying out potential commercial and industrial expansion. So we're always laying out concepts and looking at opportunities to generate additional revenue and quality of life opportunities for our residents. So in summary, it's an honor and a privilege to serve as this city's city engineer. When I accepted the position in 2019, I said I would bring a never content attitude and approach to the position. I feel the office has been successful these past 6 years, and that's thanks to the support we've received from the administration, city council, the fellow departments and department heads, as well as the public. We're very thankful for that and very happy with the successes we've achieved, but there's still plenty more to get done. We have our goals set. We have a great team in place, and because of that, I'm very confident we'll have a lot more success to continue to report in the future, and we'll continue to strive to improve the betterment of this great community we all call home. So with that, thank you, and I'll open it up to any questions that anybody might have.
Wow, Matt, I don't have a question, but no, the thanks, I think, go from here to you. Thank you for all the hard work that you have been putting in. And I know that the hours, like your day doesn't go from 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. It's continuous. So thank you for all that extra time and all that extra work that you put in.
Thank you.
Councilor Hayes.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. The organization that you have is off the charts. I can't even picture 2026 in my head. So to schedule out this far and have so many things going on. I'm curious how often you maybe have in a situation where you're going into the office and you kind of have stuff planned, but then something comes up. Is that as common, or are you mostly on these kind of longer term projects?
When construction's going on, you don't know what that day is going to bring. So that is one of the big tasks that we're going to have ahead of us as these long-term control plan projects move forward. We are going to attempt to do all that inspection for that $100 million worth of improvements. I shouldn't say for all the $100 million. We're not going to do the high rate treatment project, but all the pipe projects, the main interceptor, the Benner interceptor, and the inflow reduction projects, we're going to do all that inspection in-house. So yes, there's going to be a lot of times where you're going to have your day planned and the cell phone's going to ring from a contractor who is going to have an emergency or need a question addressed immediately to be able to continue on with their day. And you don't want lost time, because lost time can generate change orders, which is going to create additional cost on the city. So we always got to pivot. Got a great team. There's 3 of us. I mean, we're doing everything from being the administrative support of the office, answering the phones, to being out in the field. You know, can't ask for any more from anybody else. We're doing everything. But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of meetings and I make sure I hit the meetings, and, you know, sometimes things might have to wait or your day just ends up longer. Try to take a break, you know, at that 4 to 5 o'clock window and maybe get some things accomplished at home and dive back into it at 8 o'clock at night or back in at 6 in the morning. But yeah, just go with the flow each day.
Thanks.
Councilor Reesner.
Excellent work. I mean, the prudence with the money, everything, it's fantastic. I know for a lot of infrastructure projects, it's common for municipalities, governments to bond things out. And could you tell us about the Ella Street Bridge, how much we bonded out for that, how much interest we paid on that?
So the Ella Street Bridge, we were able to walk away from that project without any long-term debt. So that was about a $4.5 million project. We received $2.5 million in grant funding. We received $2 million from the ODOT Municipal Bridge Program, which was the maximum amount you could receive from that program. We also received $500,000 grant from the Ohio Public Works Commission, which was the maximum amount you could receive from that grant source as well. So we had about a $2 million local investment, and we were able to walk away with no long-term debt. And the reason behind that was because the local money we had due to the road and bridge levy. If we did not have that road and bridge levy, we would have taken on long-term debt, but we were able to plan that project a few years ahead of time. We fluctuated with our street paving for a few of those years to ensure that we had that money in place to not take on any long-term debt. We actually took out a 0% loan for $500,000 for 5 years on street paving 1 year ahead of the Ella Street River Bridge project to make sure we were paving over $1 million of roads to get on that 15 to 20-year paving cycle. And the reason we took out that 5-year loan instead of a long-term loan was because that road and bridge levy was only guaranteed through that 5 years, so we didn't want to take any long-term debt on beyond that. So no, the Ella Street River Bridge project was a huge success. We walked away with that with no long-term debt, and I think a lot of communities would have.
Excellent work. Thank you.
Councilor Snee.
Madam President, I mean, I'm just glad you're on our side, because meaning that that you're here in Tiffin and that you're young, and we hope to keep you for a long time, and you're both methodical and creative. You talk about the grants and all that. I mean, you have all that knowledge and obviously put it to great use. The citizens of Tiffin, thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have a question. Definitely want to reiterate all of the praises that you've received. You work very hard, and it's apparent. And I think especially the transparency aspect of what you do is, like you said, deeply important to the city and financially important for us too. So my question is about road diets. Because I've had people ask me about that Monroe, Jefferson, and I've read a little bit about road diets, but maybe like the pros and cons, or if you want to get back to me, that's fine too, of road diets versus returning those to 2-lane traffic roads, and what the kind of the benefit con of those two items are.
Yeah, so to go back to 2-lane traffic, none of our intersections are set up currently to go back to that approach. You would have a significant amount of cost in reconfiguring all your traffic signals, turning radiuses, things like that. So road diet, we're looking at it from the component of staying with the one-way streets that we have, and Monroe, and Jefferson are very underutilized. We've tried to promote traffic to go there. It's a lot of pavement to maintain for a little bit of traffic that's on there. So we feel long-term, if we're going to stay with the one-lane approach and not invest into that, this is something that should be considered, as it could save significant amount of dollars long-term, as well as provide a safety benefit in regards to hopefully reduce speeds by bringing in more of a narrowness approach, as well as creating safer intersections. And downtown, another thing on Washington Street that it provides is the opportunity for more on-street parking. So if you went down to, it's kind of the middle concept I had on the packet that I handed out to you, but if you went down to a one-lane, one-way street, you could put a designated bike lane in out here instead of having the shared lane markings in the roadway. So there's a safety component to the pedestrian feature, and being upstream of a school on both streets, I think there's benefit there if you went that route. Another thing is the increased on-street parking. You could get away from having to have parallel parking in all spots. So some cities have implemented what's called reverse angle parking, which I think could sound a little scary. But instead of pulling nose of the vehicle in, you basically back into that space so that you're leaving the space in a forward direction, and you don't have that blockage of sight as you're trying to back out into the roadway. So we're looking at all those different measures that could be implemented, but nothing's, I guess, guaranteed yet. Those projects in that area aren't until 2030 and beyond. So again, that long-term approach, but looking at, what opportunities are out there and continuing to look at how our city actually functions versus how our infrastructure is actually laid out.
Cool, thank you. Anybody else?
Okay, well, if there's no other questions or anything for Matt, then that concludes my report, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Clerk of Council Ann Forrest,
No report, Madam President.
Director of Finance Kathy Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a couple things for you tonight. First, I wanted to just call your attention back to the suspension that we're asking for this evening. Ordinance 2025-46, that's for the police department. And they are requesting suspension. This is something that they just found out about, and it might be mandated in the near future. They would like to purchase an e-citation unit for one of the cruisers, and they're asking you to suspend that and appropriate $3,000 into their capital budget so that they can get that item, work out any issues that there may be with it, so that they have a proactive approach to it, and they're ready to go once that mandate comes through. And then I also have the March financial report for you tonight. Total receipts for the month were $6,117,449.15. Total expenses for the month were $3,670,316.03. The general fund unencumbered balance is $5,461,006.75. Income tax receipts for March 2025 were $1,149,409.92. Total increase of March 2025 when compared to March 24 was $161,242.13. Year-to-date income tax receipts at the end of March were up 10.65%. The 0.25% portion of income tax receipts that was transferred into Fund 215 for public streets for March was $133,071.85. The portion of income tax receipts that was transferred into Fund 331 for capital improvements for March was $93,928.86. The unexpended balance for all funds was $42,798,401.35, which is the same as the bank balances for the same time period. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilor Reesner?
Madam President, I'd like to accept the finance, I move to accept the finance director's finance report and bank reconciliation month ending March 2025.
Okay, is there a second? Yes, Councilmember Herniman.
I'll second that motion, Madam President.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Hayes.
Yep. I'd like to ask why seems like, I don't know if it was expenses are lower than normal or revenue was higher. I don't know, is there like something about March or?
There was quite a bit difference in the revenues as you see that.
Right.
We were lower expenses this time, but that probably will change for April. So we just have to wait and see how that shakes out, but that's just how that ended up being for that month.
Cool. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting the finance director's report, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Director of Law, Zachary Fowler.
Thank you. No report, Madam President.
Okay, we're now under written communications.
Thank you. We have Mayor's request for legislation number 25-28, sale of vehicle to Tiffin City Schools.
Mayor's request for legislation 25-28 will be assigned to Materials and Equipment Committee.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F25-12 to amend the 2025 Budget Ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the police capital budget.
Finance Director's request for legislation F25-12 has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 25-46.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F25-13 to amend the 2025 Budget Ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the Street Department budget.
Finance Director's request for legislation F25-13 has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 25-47.
And Finance Director's request for legislation number F25-14 to amend the 2025 Budget Ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the Main Interceptor, Inflow Reduction Basis 9 through 13 and 15, CSO 18, 19, 23, 33, and 37, ODNR Division of Forestry, Abbreviated Safety Grant, ODNR Park Projects Fund, and to approve the return of the advances to the sewer and general funds.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F25-14 has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 25-48.
And that concludes written communications.
We are now under oral communications. Anyone wishing to address council may step up to the podium, sign in, and direct your questions to myself. Okay. Seeing none, we are now under motions. Are there any motions this evening? Okay. We're now under resolutions and ordinances.
Resolution number 2025-25, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker. A resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for, accept, and enter into a Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, WPCLF, agreement on behalf of the City of Tiffin for construction of the wastewater facilities involving the inflow reduction CSO 9 through 13 and 15 point repair project, designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan and declaring an emergency.
This is the second reading of resolution 25-25.
Resolution number 2025-26, introduced by Kyle Dougherty, a resolution authorizing the mayor to prepare and submit an application to participate in the state of Ohio's Nature Works grant program and declaring an emergency.
This is the second reading of resolution 2025-26.
Ordinance number 2025-29, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2025 Budget Ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the annual budget.
This is the third reading of ordinance 2025-29. Councilor Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for passage of ordinance 2025-29.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Councilor Jones?
I second that motion, Madam President.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk.
I just thought it would be good for the public to know that this is the $9,000 from the National Opioid Settlement Fund that goes into the Pivot Recovery Program that we decided to help them with.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Dougherty.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-29 passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2025-32, introduced by John Hayes, an ordinance to amend Section 141.01 of the codified ordinances to reduce the number of lieutenants of the police department.
This is the third reading of ordinance 2025-32. Councilor Hayes.
Yes, I'd like to move for passage of ordinance 2025-32.
Is there a second? Councilor Reesner.
I'll second the motion, Madam President.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilor Hayes.
Yep, this reduction in the number of lieutenants will be done by attrition, one of the current lieutenants. This will enable the police department to potentially hire somewhere else on the organizational chart.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Dougherty.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-32 passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2025-33, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city administrator to prepare plans and specifications, advertise for and receive bids, recommend and execute a contract for the inflow reduction CSO 9 through 13 and 15-point repair project, and declaring an emergency.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2025-33.
Ordinance number 2025-34, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city administrator to prepare plans and specifications, advertise for and receive bids, recommend and execute a contract for the South Sandusky Culvert Project, and authorizing the mayor to accept easements and take all actions necessary to acquire easement rights for the project.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2025-34.
Ordinance number 2025-35, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept easements for the widening of North Willow Court, accept easements for sewer facilities, and take all actions necessary to acquire those easement rights with private property owners on North Willow Court.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2025-35.
Ordinance number 2025-36, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2025 budget ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the Public Works Department Capital Equipment Fund.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2025-36.
Ordinance number 2025-37, introduced by Kyle Dougherty, an ordinance extending the designated outdoor refreshment area, DORA, for downtown Tiffin.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2025-37.
Ordinance number 2025-39, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city administrator to prepare plans and specifications, advertise for and receive bids, recommend and execute a contract for the North Sandusky Street project, authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with a professional design firm for construction, administration, and inspection services for the project, and declaring an emergency.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2025-39.
Ordinance number 2025-40, introduced by Kyle Dougherty, an ordinance accepting the dedication of the street named Nelson Street, located in the second ward of the city of Tiffin, Ohio.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2025-40.
Ordinance number 2025-44, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending section 135.13 of the codified ordinances to adopt an updated fixed assets accounting policies and declaring an emergency.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2025-44.
Ordinance number 2025-45, introduced by Kyle Dougherty, an ordinance expanding the boundaries of Community Reinvestment Area Number 5, originally established in ordinance number 16-4, and declaring an emergency.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2025-45.
Ordinance number 2025-46, introduced by Kevin Reesner. An ordinance amending the 2025 budget ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the police capital budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2025-46. Councilman Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for immediate passage of ordinance 2025-46, suspending city council's reading rule.
Okay, is there a second? Councilman Snee?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Councilman Reesner?
Thank you, Madam President. This is for an e-citation unit for a forthcoming mandate. So this is one of the vehicles. It's going to be 3,000, and I would perceive that we would be one less to buy next year or whenever we get the mandate.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Dougherty.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 7-0. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Dougherty.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Harniman.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-46 passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2025-47, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2025 budget ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the street department budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2025-47.
Ordinance number 2025-48, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2025 budget ordinance 24-94 to appropriate funds into the main interceptor fund, inflow reduction basis 9 through 13 and 15 fund, CSO 18, 19, 23, 33, and 37 fund, ODNR Division of Forestry Fund, abbreviated Safety Grant Fund, ODNR Park Projects Fund, and to approve the return of the advances to the sewer and general funds.
This is the first reading of ordinance 2025-48.
And that concludes the legislation.
Okay. We are now under other business. Is there any other business for this evening? Councilor Herniman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to announce a Economic Development and Downtown Planning Committee meeting for Monday, May 12th, 2025 at 5:15 p.m. in council chambers. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss possible renaming of a street to honor a certain individual and anything else that may come before the committee.
Okay. Any further business for this evening? Okay. Remember, voting day is tomorrow. We adjourn at 8:21.